Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Becky, and we're parents to two little kids. Parenting isn't always easy. There are ups and downs, good days and bad days, days with way too much TV, and days with lots of laughter. Moments where you just feel overwhelmed, and moments where you've never felt more proud.
At the end of the day, parenting is super rewarding, but also super hard. This podcast is for all the parents out there who feel like they have no idea what they're doing, because we're right there with you. This is the Spillproof podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Spillproof podcast. Today we're going to be talking about parenting.
You know, I hear you say hello, and I can't help but think about earlier when we were giving Owen a bath. Well, your mom and I were giving Owen a bath, and you and your brother walked in downstairs. And normally when somebody walks in and I'm not 100% sure who it is, even though I knew it was you and your brother, you know, you say, hello, who's there? So I had said hello, and then Owen kept shouting, screeching, not even shouting, hello? 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 And you guys were answering him.
Yeah, because I kept saying hello back, and then he would scream hello.
It was so aggressive.
As if neither one of us knew who the other one was.
Just a constant back and forth of, hello? Hello?
It went on for a good couple minutes.
Kids.
Yeah. It'll ruin a word for you, kids. Speaking of that, parenting and how it changed us. That's what we're talking about today.
So when you think of how parenting has changed you, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
There are certain movies that have been ruined for me by being a parent, by being a father. The one that comes to mind the most is Finding Nemo.
Ooh, yeah.
That beginning scene. So everyone talks about the up scene. The first, I think it's 8 minutes of that movie, where you see them meet, get married, try for a kid, they can't, and then she dies of like cancer or some unforeseen illness. The beginning of Finding Nemo crushes me now after I have a kid. Being a father, having your babies all taken in, your wife, and then all you're left is just one. After you thought that you were going to have like all these kids, you just have one kid. Like that just crushes me to the point where I can't watch that movie, at least the beginning part anymore. I don't even think we've shown it to Owen. I think Owen's seen Finding Dory, but never Finding Nemo.
He's seen parts of Finding Nemo. But I will say even the beginning of Finding Dory, that gets me too, because it's a little kid who's lost. I think they're both kind of ruined for me now.
I could see that.
Because, and something I'll talk about is just safety in general, right? But watching that beginning of that movie makes you think, oh my gosh, what if my kid got lost or had short-term memory loss and
forgot who you were.
Yeah, and wandered away long enough to where they didn't know how to get back to us or find us or even remember who we were, where we lived. That makes me sad. You
look like you're getting a little teary-eyed.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, I can't watch that stuff anymore. So a lot of those movies, I can't do. And there's another one, too, that comes to mind, but not enough for me to remember the title of it.
You blocked it from your memory.
Apparently, and I think it was worse than Finding Nemo, and I can't do that. As stupid as that sounds, I can't watch those movies anymore.
I will say a lot of Disney movies in general kind of rip your heart apart as a parent. But when you watch it as a kid, or even as an adult with no kids, you don't even think about it. You're like, it's just a movie. Yeah, that's sad, but whatever, it's just a movie.
I think that, like, usually, I think there's even a meme about it. Usually it's the mother that gets it. Like Bambi's mom.
Yeah.
Nemo's mom.
If you're a mom in a Disney movie, watch out. But we watched, even on YouTube, probably within the last couple months, we watched like a countdown of the top 10 saddest Disney movies or Pixar movies or one of those countdowns like that. And I ugly cried during it.
You did. I forgot about that.
I hardcore broke down because it was every example got more sad and more intense to the point where I was ugly crying at every example, like laughing because I was ugly crying so hard and was genuinely feeling like so sad and distraught over these examples.
Whatever the other movie was that I was thinking of was on that list. I remember that.
I know, and we talk about that list all the time, and we honestly must have just blocked it out because it was so awful.
It must have been. All right, so we're not talking about movies, we're talking about parenting.
Yes.
You got one?
Yes, so I have always been an anxious person in general, just about, everyday things, social anxiety. But after kids, that anxiety has transitioned into almost obsession over their safety. I will wake up in the middle of the night worrying that Owen's going to run into the street and get hit by a car. Or like we've mentioned before, we have a steep driveway. And so I think about, oh my gosh, if we're playing outside one day and he just makes a break for it, what if I can't get to him in time? I have a lot more anxiety about their safety. And obviously I wouldn't before kids because they didn't exist. But I have nieces and nephews, and obviously I was always concerned about their well-being. But the intensity to which I think about these things, even driving my car, you think, did I buckle up the car seat tight enough? Did I cut up their chicken small enough? Are they going to choke on it? I have many nights in the week where I will sit up in bed and just in a panic because I've dreamt about or had a small thought that something would happen to our children.
I get that. I stress about that quite a bit. Something happening to Owen or something happening to Emily, like them choking or like I think I'm always paranoid about that. I've always cut their food up probably much smaller than it needs to be. And, as far as them putting something in their mouth they shouldn't, or playing with something that might be dangerous or not even really dangerous, but just walking down the stairs even, walking up the stairs. Owen's very capable of doing that, and I don't think he's really ever fallen. Can actually probably go up them without holding the rail, not that we let him. I always worry about him falling and then like not getting up, or is he biting or running with something sharp that might bite his tongue and it might bite a piece of it off, or fall on something and stab himself. I totally get that.
Sucks. Those thoughts, they just, they're not fun, but I think they come with parenting. There's new things you have to worry about. There's so many great things that come with parenting too, but that's just something I didn't realize how intense it would feel.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing that will keep you up at night, for sure. Or even the worst part, somebody taking him.
We had a very real fear when we went to Disney World that someone was going to try to take him, because he's so cute. And I know every parent thinks that their kid is very cute. We obviously think our child is very cute, but he just has these cheeks that are just so cute. And we were like, someone's going to try to take him.
Well, there were multiple people who were like, he's so cute, I just want to steal him. People said that a lot.
They did say that a lot.
Like enough for us to actually be like mildly concerned. Subconsciously, maybe.
I think subconscious. Like we know someone probably wasn't going to attempt to kidnap him, but you become like a mama bear or papa bear when you have kids, and you're like, haha, that's so funny, but let me see you try to get past me. Like, come at me.
Definitely. One thing for me definitely is the way we spend money. So I definitely spent money a little more frivolously, I want to say. Like a lot on cars and other random things, anything on Amazon that might have struck my fancy. Prime ordered it and get it the next day. Now, I definitely don't spend money on cars because it's just way too much money. But nowadays, I'm thinking about saving money. But also, if I am spending the money, I'm typically buying something for Owen or Emily. The other day when I went to the grocery store because we ran out of garbage bags, I just happened to be walking by the toy aisle and saw that there was a Wall-E and Eve little figurine. So that's the little Pixar movie, and Owen loves that movie. Just absolutely adores it.
He does.
I think that might be his favorite movie at this exact moment. And so I bought it for him, and every once in a while I'll bring home a surprise, and every time he hears surprise or sees a paper bag, because in New York State we can't have plastic bags.
No plastic.
So everything's paper now. So he sees a paper bag, he'll be like, spies. So he got super excited about that. But that's what I'm spending the extra little money on that we tend to have. Or, I'm not buying things for myself. I can't remember the last time I bought clothes for myself. But little things like that for him, or Hot Wheels cars. That's a really big thing too. So, 99 cents at Target or $1.29 at the grocery store. If I might see one that might look cool or might think that he looks cool, that he might think looks cool, just grab those on the way out. And that's kind of what I mostly spend the money on these days. That and a lot of groceries and diapers.
Yeah, a lot of groceries, a lot of diapers. But I would agree. Thinking to Christmas or birthdays, I used to have a list like, oh, I want this for my birthday, or oh, I'll ask my parents or Dave to get me this for my birthday or Christmas. And now typically it's something, if I do ask for something, it's something that I can enjoy with the kids, or it's really for the kids, because that's what brings me, and I think us, a lot of joy, is being able to do activities with them, especially in the summer. You know, last summer we got the little bike seat to put on the bike because we've always loved biking and then wanted to share that with Owen. So yeah, it's definitely our purchases and the way we spend money has definitely changed. It's more kid focused, more family focused. Even how we save, since we've had kids, a Disney fund that we've put money in continually. And it's for Disney, but it's also just for family vacations in general. So we call it the Disney Fund, but it's for, future family vacations, wherever we want to go. And typically we wouldn't put something like that aside. We would just kind of wait until we had the money and then spend it. But now we have those goals in mind to set this extra money aside for family specific things.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that it bothers me by any means that our spending has changed. I was talking with one of my coworkers the other day who's a big car enthusiast, or, used to be. And we were talking a little bit, and it's just one of those things that it just changes for a little bit. We used to spend a ton of money on cars, buying cars, selling cars, modifying cars, and, wasted thousands of dollars. I can think of at least $7,000 that I wasted on probably just one car purchase and didn't get it back. You can't enjoy that kind of thing anymore. And it's not like I can't enjoy it as saying that because of the kids. It's just my time is divided among other things now. So instead of going out working on that or driving it or whatever it might be, I'd rather spend time with my kids, playing with them, helping them build something or whatever it might be, going outside and just running around or going on walks with them or going to the park.
Yeah, when I think about some of the purchases I made before kids, some of them are perfectly justified, but some of them are so stupid. I spent my money on really, really frivolous things. For example, I don't even know if you know how much I spent on this. It was before we met, so it doesn't count, really. So
now it's okay. I get it.
But I am a big fan of Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones, and I bought... It's like a framed photo of Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones, and he signed it, and it's authenticated. And I spent $700 on that without a bat of an eye. Just was like, charge it.
Where did you buy that from?
Disney World.
Oh, well, at least it was real then.
Yeah, and there's a little certificate on the back. It's sealed. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there saying that's still fake. I'm convinced it's real. It's a real signature, and Disney wouldn't do that to me, hopefully. But without like I said, without a second's hesitation, I was like, yep, I'm getting this. Here's my credit card. Swipe it. Best purchase ever. And now I think if I came home or you came home and you were like, hey, I got this. It was only $700 and it's Harrison Ford's signature. I would probably lose it and be like, why the heck would you do that? We could have used that money towards another car seat or baby food or, a trip to...
A weekend trip.
A weekend away to the Adirondacks or anywhere. But at the time I was like, I'll never regret this. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. But now... I wouldn't have made that same choice. I probably would have said, and pick something out that's 1/20th the cost of that.
I don't know if I've ever gone to Disney World and spent that much money. Last trip I did build a lightsaber and build a droid, but I think that was only about $300.
Yeah,
and got 2 crystals, which was maybe another $50 for the lightsabers.
Yeah, so but no, it still doesn't add up to the $700 I spent on that signature. No. It's hanging up in our house as we speak.
No, I see it. It's right at the top of the stairs.
Yep.
I've always seen it. I always wondered where you got that from, because I always wondered if it was you got it off of eBay and it was just some guy in a basement signing autographs that looked like Harrison Ford.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Not unless he's in the bowels of Disney.
So another one for me, how I recharge. So before kids, I was someone who needed, I wouldn't say a ton, but I recharged through alone time where, I would just watch a movie by myself or, hang out in my bedroom by myself. Dave works on Saturdays, and before kids, he also worked on Saturdays. So that was kind of my day to recharge, read a book, go for a walk, do whatever, go shopping by myself, but just have some alone time. And as parents, if anyone is a parent out there, you know that alone time is very hard to come by. So I've had to change how I recharge and decompress. And I've actually found that I recharge when all four of us are together. So when it's me, Dave, our son Owen, and our daughter Emily. Because of our work schedules, the time that all four of us are together is limited during the week. So I've actually found that instead of being alone, I recharge and can relax and decompress when we're all together, which kind of is, when I'm saying it out loud, it doesn't necessarily make sense, but I guess that's just how parenting has changed me, is I crave those moments where we're all together. And even if, some of the kids are whiny or crying, I crave those moments where all four of us are together, just hanging out, even if we're just sitting there watching Owen run his cars up and down his track for the 500th time. Those are the moments that bring me peace and allow me to just relax.
I get that. I can understand where you're coming from on that. I always had Wednesdays off, and that was always my day where I could do whatever I wanted, and typically had a routine, sleep in, shower, get up, make breakfast, go out, drive a vehicle, or go shopping, or go around the mall, or go get coffee somewhere and hang out for a little bit. So I definitely had a routine, and even especially when I was only working 313s, that was even more so because I'd have 4 days off and just kind of do whatever the heck I wanted, usually end up on the canal. But now with kids, I want to be with my kids and with my family, and honestly, the time that I'm away from them, I just feel guilty.
Yeah.
Whether it's work or I'm personally doing something like going to the doctor or having to do something else like go to the house store to get stuff, whatever it might be. So I totally understand that. I will say that I think I relax a little bit more when it's just like us sitting on the couch watching a movie. So you, me, Owen, Emily, Owen sitting in my lap, Emily sitting over with you, and we're just watching Cars for the millionth time. I think that maybe that is a little more relaxing for me rather than all four of us and trying to chase him around because he won't put a diaper on. But yeah, I totally get that. I'd rather be with the family than just completely alone because then I feel guilty.
Yeah. Even a couple weeks ago, I took off Monday and Tuesday from work, and the kids were at daycare those days, and I was very excited to have just a couple of days to myself, do whatever I wanted to do, get some chores done around the house, watch shows that are not kid-friendly shows. I think I watched some Keeping Up with the Kardashians and just, those guilty pleasure shows. But I did find every day around 2 o'clock, I was craving time with them and felt a little guilty. And I think every parent feels that way. They say they want alone time, they want time to do their own things, and then the second they step out the door to get that alone time, they feel guilty. Or they just want to go, cuddle with their kids. And it was really good for me to get that time because just with the last year, I don't think anyone's gotten as much alone time as they probably did need, and time to just be in their own thoughts. But while those 2 days were really nice, I was ready to kind of be with them or be busy with work or, not be alone in my thoughts as much. Because as I said before, sometimes when I'm alone in my thoughts too much, I start to worry about my kids more.
Well, that goes into another thing that I think has changed me is I just feel guilty all the time. I just always feel guilty. When I'm at work, I feel guilty like I'm there too much. When I'm doing something like spending time mowing the lawn, I feel guilty about that because I am not spending a nice day with my kid outside. At the same time, I feel guilty because if I didn't do that, then I'd be spending the money to do that, which the money then we're trying to save to put towards a trip or groceries or diapers, whatever it might be. So the overwhelming guilt of being a parent, or the guilt of maybe not doing the right training as far as teaching the ABCs, or, he might learn a lot at daycare, but then maybe I feel guilty because we're not doing enough at home to help cultivate what they're starting or keep going or, whatever they might be teaching them there. So I think that you're always having a little bit of guilt or a lot of guilt. And maybe if you don't even realize it, I feel guilty sometimes because I'm driving home in my car from my commute and I'm like, this is nice. But then I feel guilty about it because I feel guilty because I'm enjoying my drive home where it's just me in the car.
No, I I get that. And I think I feel the same way a lot, where it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I think so.
Where, sometimes I feel like because I don't have any type of commute anymore, my commute is walking from one room to another. Sometimes like, I wish I had that little bit of time to just drink a coffee by myself and listen to a podcast on the way to work. But then I feel guilty because I'm like, that's time away from the kids. And I did stress about, when I was working in the office, I did stress more about the time away from the kids, which I totally understand you feeling, because that's how I think we both felt before I was working from home. Was, when Owen was the last kid at daycare, picking him up broke my heart. Even though I got out of work at 5 and got him by 5:30, a totally acceptable time. It's not like we were picking him up at like 7 p.m. And I'm sure there's some parents who can't pick their kids up till 7 p.m. from daycare. And, their kid is the last kid. And that guilt is just, it's always there.
It really is. It really is. And I don't know if there's any way around it, to be honest.
No.
Because when you compensate somewhere else, then there's another place where it pops up.
Yeah, because then if you spend too much time, because sometimes I'm like, well, do I spend too much time with the kids? Or like with Emily specifically, do I hog her and am I not letting Dave have too much time with her? I feel guilt about that, or I worry about that. Or with Owen, sometimes I feel guilty because you're his favorite. And I'm like, well, shouldn't I be his favorite? Which kid's allowed to have.
It'll probably change.
Yeah, but like his favorite is his favorite. It's his choice. It's not anything you or I did or didn't do.
That we know of.
I think sometimes I don't know if mess with him is the right word.
You tease and taunt him a little bit.
I do.
With things that he loves.
Yeah, like I do, like I'll definitely tease him a little bit more than you will. And then we'll joke like, oh, that's why I'm not his favorite. But
there might be some truth to it.
Yeah, I think there's probably some truth to that. Also, bath time. I will just dump the water on his head, and he really hates when we do that.
Well, you dump the water over his head, and then you don't put your hand over his eyes.
Because the water needs to wash his face.
Right, but you do that once you wash his hair.
Yeah.
You rinse his hair. Then you wash his face, and you do that once right over his face. If you have to do it when you do his hair, then you're doing it like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I do his hair and his face.
Because for some reason his hair gets all the soap in it.
I get him all soapy, and then I do like 4 dumps of water.
That's why he hates it.
That's why he hates it. Okay. All right, I got to try this. I'm going to try the Dave technique, and then I'm going to report back and let everyone know.
Did it work?
Did it work?
Because here's the thing. They say that it's no tears. Johnson & Johnson says it's no tears, which we'll see if that's what their vaccine says. But I swear, and I always have, I swear that you can feel the sting of the soap in your eyes. And I remember my parents always saying, no, it doesn't sting. It's no tears. Well, I noticed Owen recently starting to like rub his eyes when it got in there, and he started like freaking out a little bit. It definitely has some sting to it. Maybe not as much as like a regular shampoo.
Yeah, but I think
definitely
anytime you get anything in your eyes, like sometimes you can get water in your eye and it irritates it.
Yeah, but it doesn't sting.
No, it doesn't sting, but maybe it's not stinging. Maybe it's just irritating him.
He panics.
I'm trying to teach him how to just close his eyes.
He blinks like twice a day. That's never going to happen.
That is true. He really does not blink very often.
No, as a baby, he barely blinked, and he's starting to blink a little bit. But
so he maybe has really
much.
Dry eyes. Anyways, we've gotten far off topic, but that's okay.
But that was another thing I was going to talk about, is that I worry that, the kids don't like me. For a while, Emily didn't. She didn't like me.
Yeah.
She only wanted you. You could be the only one holding her. I think you could even only be the one looking at her at one point.
There was a short time when it was really bad.
Well, and I was also worried that like maybe she wouldn't recognize us, because when we first met her, we were wearing face masks.
Yeah, almost the whole time in the hospital we wore masks. I mean, we did take them off when no one else was in there, but we wanted to make sure we were really respectful of the nurses and doctors. And
it was a rule.
And yeah, it wasn't like, oh, try to put it on. It was like, put the mask on when we come in.
Mm-hmm. So I always wondered if, maybe she didn't recognize from the nose down. Yeah, from the nose down, like me. Now she's fine. She loves me, and
she does.
She loves the...
She
She
loves
doesn't
Daddy.
snuggle with me as much as she snuggles with you. She snuggles right up into you.
Mm-hmm.
But Owen's always...
He's always been more snuggly with you.
He's always been more snuggly with me. And I don't know if it's from being with him when he was sick or feeding him a bottle. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It must have been something. But, I mean, you were the first one to hold him, I think.
No, you held him first, I think, because...
Oh, that's right. 'Cause
it was a C-section, and so they brought him to you. You held him while they sewed me back up.
and you were the first one to hold him.
Yes. Yeah.
Other than, obviously, medical professionals who had to
Yes.
physically remove the babies from you.
There is that, yes. So, but who knows? Maybe it was whoever held them first, or maybe it was just luck of the draw.
Isn't that like a baby bird thing or an animal thing? Like they imprint on you?
They imprint on the first person they see. I don't know if that's real or if it's just something that's in movies and stories.
Does anybody know? Somebody put it.
Let us know, yes.
Email us at spillproofpodcast@gmail. Let us know if you know. I don't know. Might be one of those things that people just say. Or a myth.
Or a myth. Germs. I've never been a germaphobe. Ever.
Never?
No, I've never been a germaphobe.
Really?
I've had slight OCD and a ton of anxiety, but I've never had anxiety over germs before kids.
You didn't care about walking barefoot and worried about getting athlete's foot when you were swimming and diving?
No, never worried about that.
Ugh, step in a cold puddle and worry about what was in it?
No.
Ugh.
I never had that thought before kids. And some people may be thinking, oh, well, you were pregnant during a pandemic. You had a little one during a pandemic. This was before that. This was when Owen was born. We went into like lockdown with Owen, I think. Like, we were really worried about germs with him in general. You know, we had everyone wash their hands. We had hand sanitizer everywhere, which I think most new parents do. But I remember like a flip switched where I thought about germs so much more with Owen and with pumping parts and sanitizing them and like reading about thrush, which Owen never got and Emily got.
For quite some time.
For a while, and I wasn't as worried about it with her. I didn't love that she got it, but I would be paranoid up in the middle of the night reading about thrush, and Owen didn't even have it. Just the thought that he could get it from these germs. Like, we had to sterilize everything. I washed bottles constantly because Owen was bottle-fed breast milk. So I was constantly washing bottles 8 to 10 times a day, sterilizing it, and nothing was clean enough. Like, if he put things in his mouth, if somebody came to visit and they had a kid with them and that kid touched things in the house, when they left, I wiped everything down. And so it's interesting that we had Emily during a pandemic and I was way less worried about germs with her, but still worried.
Second child.
Second child, right? You're just like, it is what it is. They're going to put stuff in their mouth. They're going to, put stuff in their mouth and they're going to put more stuff in their mouth. But that was a big thing for me, was worrying more about germs in general.
That's funny because, like, I used to be a huge germaphobe. Like, I wouldn't share a Coke with somebody or, if I touch something, anything that might be gross, even if I wiped it off and washed it off my hand, I could still mentally feel it on my hand. Like, it was to that extreme. It was a fairly big problem. And I kicked it pretty early on, and probably in high school, I want to say. I think I kicked it. I still won't walk barefoot in a gym. I think that's disgusting. Or a locker room. I, to this day, still won't because I think it's absolutely gross. But I used to be a huge germaphobe. Kicked it. Good. I definitely want to make sure Owen doesn't get sick. So, I think of those things like, oh, don't lick that monorail pole because that probably has germs on it. So definitely that. But I would say I actually probably am a little less worried about germs.
Because you had it so much before, or because you had it and then dealt with it?
Oh, I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know, to be honest. I just, like with Owen, pre-pandemic, pre-all that, because the pandemic thing definitely brought back some PTSD of my younger years of worrying about germs and touching door handles and feeling the germs on me physically, which I know is not actually possible, but it doesn't change the fact of how I feel about that. But like, for instance, changing a dirty diaper. You might get some diaper contents on you. Mm-hmm. That doesn't freak me out. It doesn't. I think it's happened twice today.
Yeah.
I know it grosses you out.
It does. It grosses me out when I get poop on me. And I think that's a normal human reaction.
You know what? It's going to happen. That's what soap's for. I wipe it off and keep going. So yeah, I would honestly say that I probably am the opposite. I think I got a little more hearty with that when it comes to kids, because like some of our relatives, they won't share food off their kid's plate because they're worried about getting sick. Because kids are always sick. They're always sick.
Yeah,
There's always a cold. Somebody always has a cold in the class, and they don't wash their hands very well, and all that kind of stuff. So like sharing a food or finishing something off their plate, or if they have a half-eaten piece of pizza, eating the rest of it. Sometimes people have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. Owen straight up stuck his fingers in my mouth once, and it was just like...
Once? I feel like that's a daily occurrence for you guys.
Maybe.
I feel like he's always just like grabbing at you.
Yeah, he is a grabby kid, but so is Em.
So is Em, that's true. So is Em. Em is actually a mask grabber. She gets everyone in trouble because she grabs your mask, and then it's like, oh no, this really needs to stay on.
Masks, glasses, anything.
Yeah, glasses.
Better not be wearing earrings.
I have not worn earrings in like 2 years because grabby children, I don't want them to rip my earlobe.
I don't think that would happen.
You never know.
It's pretty stretchy.
But kids are strong.
Owen's very strong.
Yeah, you never know.
Owen would just take the whole ear off. Em, I think you're okay.
I'm going to play it safe and just not wear earrings for a while.
Yeah, might be worth it.
There you go. My last thing, and I'm going to end on a very positive note here, is just these moments during the day, which I think you'll agree, because most of the time it's these moments where we look at each other and we just have these moments where Owen will just do this little like jig shake dance thing, or he'll just smile his smile will be so wide and so genuine, or the way that Emily will look at her brother and just smile and be so genuinely thrilled, or just like the pure bliss on their faces. Those moments, I had never felt those moments in like my heart and soul before, kids. Where like we'll look at each other and just kind of like get these huge grins on our face where we're just like, oh my gosh, look how happy they are. Look how much fun they're having, or look how silly they're being and they don't even care. And like we'll make eye contact and we'll smile and kind of be like, oh my gosh, look at them. Like I didn't have moments like that before, where I literally, this sounds so cheesy, but like felt my heart swell.
No, I get that. It's when he is just pure happiness. Like there's definitely something that's lost when you get older of like pure joy. Mm-hmm. Like you can be happy about something as an adult, even as a teenager or whatever. You can be happy. Something can make you happy. Something can get me excited. I can get excited about going to Disney. I can get excited about getting a free money, whatever it might be. Getting a new car, which actually is more stressful. But there are some things that they get you happy, but pure blissfulness that children have, I think you lose that at some point. Like I can't remember the last time that like something happened, and maybe like let's say more of a spontaneous thing, because obviously, getting married and proposing and those kind of things were definitely blissful in their own way, but it wasn't like
those spontaneous,
I can't control my excitement
moments,
where I just like shake because I'm just so excited. I can't remember the last time I had something like that.
Yeah, and I think seeing our kids have those moments, it reminds you of that. And just like when we were putting Owen to bed the other night, and I was hiding behind his curtain and peeking out, and like the little giggles that were exuding from him were just like, it was such a silly thing. I was just peeking out from behind a curtain, but to him it was like the greatest thing he had experienced that day.
And I think it's different when it's your kid.
Yes,
like I think
there's
a huge difference between when you see someone else's kid, even a niece or nephew, mm-hmm. When it's them versus your own kid. Mm-hmm. Like it just resonates differently.
Yeah, I think so too, because I have a bunch of, and we have a bunch of nieces and nephews, mm-hmm. and we see them do adorable things or funny things or learn new things all the time. But then when it's your kid, it's so much different. Yeah, like you feel deeper about everything that happens.
100%. There's more of a connection, which obviously there would be because it's your kid. And maybe it's because you see them on a daily basis, so you see their highs and lows. Mm-hmm. So when you see this blissfulness coming from your child, it's just more noticeable because you see them every day. Whereas when you see your niece and nephew every once in a while or occasionally for holidays. So when you see that kind of stuff, say like at Christmas time when you open a present and they get something that they really wanted, it just isn't the same that when you see your own child and they get excited because a squirrel just popped out of a pumpkin.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think overall parenting has changed me for the better.
Yeah, I definitely think so too.
Yeah.
I never thought that I would enjoy being a parent as much as I currently do. It's definitely something that changed me. It was definitely something that I didn't decide that I actually wanted to do until later in life, I feel like, later than a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I don't know if a lot of people plan to be parents, like early on, or, know that you want kids someday, but then are like, okay, I'm going to do it now. Or if it's always just like, well, I just always want to have a family and kids. I don't know. Everyone's a little
different. I always knew I wanted kids. It was more meeting the right person to want kids with for me. Or just getting out and meeting people in general that was holding me back.
Yeah, you can't find somebody if you don't meet people.
You don't put yourself out there, yeah.
That's definitely could be an issue.
It's a whole other story, which maybe one day we'll get into.
Maybe. But hey, you ended up with 2 really cute kids. Everyone says they're really cute kids, so that's
yes, meant to be.
Yes, I definitely am happy to be a parent, and mm-hmm. I love our children, and I would do absolutely anything for them, and never really thought up until having kids that it would change me this much, and that I'd be okay with it. I think that was probably a big surprise for me too, is that I'm okay with how okay I am with being okay with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me at least.
All right. Tell us if it makes sense. Spillproofpodcast@gmail. All right. So I think that about wraps it up for this. Parenting, how it changed us. Got any last words?
No.
All right. Well then, that was parenting and how it changed us. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Spillproof Podcast. As always, reach out to us at spillproofpodcast@gmail.
We'd love to hear from you all, and we can't wait to talk with you next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.